Hello everyone and welcome to the Ticker.com's news channel on YouTube. On this channel, we review stock markets and discuss financial news, market trends, and economic data from Wall Street to Global Street. So let us get started. Wall Street indices approached record highs as trade tensions waned and geopolitical receded for now. Benchmark indices in the US, Europe, Japan, China, and India have rebounded more than 20% from the lows on April 8, when the US president launched global tariff war. While those trade tensions have subsided, the threats of sky-high tariffs and uncertainties are weighing on businesses and consumers. For now, investors are ignoring the Trump administration's erratic trade policy, unpredictable slide into combative zone, and weakening economic data, and focusing on upcoming earnings season. We begin the review of global economic data with the U.S. U.S. GDP contraction was deeper than previously estimated in the first quarter because of weaker than estimated consumer spending and exports, offset by slight improvement in imports. The Federal Reserve's preferred measure of inflation confirmed prices are still rising, and core measure accelerated to 2.7% from 2.6%. While inflation appears to be hovering below 3%, but make no mistake, nominal prices are rising in larger increments because of elevated base. Affordability issues continue to inflict housing market, and existing home sales hovered near an annual pace of 4 million in June. The median home price edged up to a new record high, pushing the unsold inventory of homes to a 3-year low. New home sales struggled in May amid elevated mortgage rates and lack of affordability. Across Atlantic, passenger car sales in European Union held nearly stable in May, but battery-powered electric vehicle sales surged. Battery-powered electric vehicle sales almost soared 25% from a year ago to 142,766 units, largely because of a 45% surge in sales in Germany. Overall registrations in the first 5 months of 2025 eased by 0.6% from a year ago to 4.6 million units. Japan's retail sales rose at a slower pace in June and expanded for the 30th consecutive month. Retail sales rose at the slowest pace since February, when sales expanded at an annual pace of 1.3%. The sustained increase in consumption is driven by a sharp increase in wages for the third year in a row after stalling for nearly 2 decades. Inflation also was on the minds of investors in Japan for the second week in a row. Tokyo area inflation edged slightly lower to 3.1%, but core inflation, which excludes food and not energy, eased to 3.1% from 3.4% in the previous month. The largest metropolitan area's inflation gauge serves as a harbinger to the national inflation trend, and cooling but elevated inflation rates are likely to support the Bank of Japan's gradual approach in increasing interest rates in the months ahead. Japan's private business activities showed mixed picture, with the services sector expanding and the manufacturing sector returning to a growth, but the threat of international trade uncertainty weighed on businesses. In other economic news around the world, the U.S. goods trade deficit was fairly stable after surging in the previous month because of the front-loading by businesses. Let us review key events in global bond, currency, and commodity markets last week. The yield on the 10-year U.S. Treasury eased below 4.3% after traders bet that the central bank is likely to cut rates sooner than later, amid weakening economic and inflation outlook. Texas crude oil prices plunged as much as $15 to below $66 a barrel after a ceasefire between Israel and Iran lowered the risk to global crude oil prices. Natural gas prices in Europe dropped 18% to 34 euros per megawatt hour amid a global supply glut, weak demand, and easing geopolitical tensions. The euro edged higher to a new 2021 high at $1.17 amid general dollar weakness and renewed worries about the Federal Reserve's independence. The yen held near 145 against the amid above-average inflation in the Tokyo area, which supported the case for the BOJ to continue its rate hike campaign. Let us shift our attention to major stock markets in the US, Europe, and Asia. The S&P 500 index and the Nasdaq composite jumped more than 3% and approached record highs as optimism about trade policy and rate cut outweighed pessimistic economic data. European markets rebounded from losses in the previous 2 consecutive weeks amid general optimism driven by the U.S. backing down from additional tariff threats and fragile peace in the Middle East. The Nikkei 225 stock average soared more than 5% and reached multi-month high after global market sentiment improved following the White House downplaying the urgency of upcoming tariff deadlines. Hong Kong and China indices jumped as much as 4% in the week as the U.S.-China Trade Framework Agreement eased fears of a prolonged trade war. Indian market indices rebounded for the second consecutive week amid a possible trade deal with the U.S., new foreign fund flows, and improving global sentiment. We now shift our attention to merger deals, market movers, and earnings updates from the leading companies last week. Nike reported weak quarterly results in line with expectations, and sporting goods retailer raised its quarterly dividend and confirmed tariff-driven hit of almost $1 billion before price increases. H&M posted weaker than expected quarterly results but guided an uptick in demand to kickstart the summer season. Chewy announced a Class A common stock offering of $1 billion by a selling stockholder underwritten by J.P. Morgan. Micron Technology reported strong quarterly results, and the memory and storage solution provider reiterated its current quarter outlook. Walgreens Boots Alliance said sales jumped in the third quarter, but the pharmacy retailer's earnings swung to a loss from a year ago. Raymond James Financial said client assets under administration in May increased nearly 10%, driven by growth in private client assets and fee-based accounts. FedEx Corporation failed to meet analyst expectations despite positive financial results, and the parcel delivery company raised its annual dividend. KB Home reported weak second quarter results, and the home builder revised lower its annual outlook and reiterated its stock repurchase program. FactSet Research reported mixed financial results despite data and software provider adding 166 new clients in the third quarter. AeroVironment posted strong quarterly results, and the defense technology company reiterated its annual outlook. Carnival Corporation reported strong quarterly second quarter results and earnings because of strong last-minute bookings, and the cruise company reconfirmed its annual outlook. In the week ahead, investors in the U.S. are looking forward to the release of manufacturing service, construction spending, and vehicle sales. The unemployment rate, non-farm payroll, and the international trade balance data are also on schedule. On the earnings front, investors are expecting results from Quantum Corporation, Progress Software, Constellation Brands, Greenbrier, and UniFirst Corporation. In Europe, investors are looking ahead to the release of Germany's retail sales, import prices, inflation rate, unemployment rate, and factory orders, and UK's GDP growth rate, business investment, current account, and the Eurozone's loans to companies and loans to households and inflation rate. Markets are also anticipating construction data information in France, Germany, and the UK, Italy's retail sales, United Kingdom's new car sales, consumer confidence in Spain, and producer prices in the Eurozone. On the earnings front, investors are looking ahead to results from Bavaria Industry, Volvo Cars, Currys plc, Stolt-Nielsen, and Norwegian Air Shuttle. In Asia, investors expect the release of China's manufacturing data, Japan's housing starts, construction orders, and consumer confidence data, and India's industrial production, current account, and external debt data. Japan is also scheduled to release its household spending, and India is scheduled to report its bank loan growth data, deposit growth, and foreign exchange reserves. On the earnings front in Asia, investors are anticipating results from Grand Ming Group, Nippon, Philcon, Fast Retailing, Disco Corporation, United Microelectronics, Onward Holdings, and Yaskawa Electric. You can review daily U.S. and global financial market news, stock movers, earnings release, SEC filings, and economic updates on ticker.com and 123jump.com. You can find the latest financial books on Rodera.com, keep up with financial industry events on eventsinamerica.com, review ETF and mutual fund performance and in-depth profiles on tickerfunds.com, and review market updates and stock movers in India on niveshak.in. That is all for today, and we will see you next week.